Minister said there would only be pipelines if there was consensus. As it turns out, BC's Premier has said no. Several Liberal MPs are opposed, and even within the Prime Minister's own head, there seems to be opposition, because on the one hand, he says, yes, we're going to go ahead and become the energy superpower, and on the other hand, he says, no, oil needs to stay in the ground. The Prime Minister clearly has no plan to get things done, so why is he putting his elbows down and making us beholden to the United States of America?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, what we saw on Monday were 13 provinces and territories working together to build the strongest economy in the G7. The premiers and the government are focused on building a strong Canadian economy. What we see from my colleagues across the floor are attempts to divide and to block development. I hope Conservatives will join with us in building a strong Canada.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Non-answer that has become accustomed to these Liberals. Grand gestures, meetings and press conferences will not get things done, even though the Prime Minister seems to believe that's the case. But what would move things forward, of course, is a plan to scrap Bill C-69, the No New Pipelines Act, a plan to scrap Bill C-48, a plan to scrap the job-killing oil and gas cap that exists, the industrial carbon tax. Let's get rid of that as well. Is the Prime Minister simply turning a blind eye to these things, or does he just not know how to get things done?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
If my honourable colleague was listening to what happened in Saskatoon, the premiers and the Prime Minister have a plan to fast-track projects, to get projects done within 2 years, and to build the strongest economy in the G7. Why don't you guys get on? Why don't my colleagues get on board?
No consensus. That's reality this week on getting Western oil and gas to Tidewater. There is consensus in Newfoundland and Labrador today, where the VOCM poll shows 74% agree that the Liberal oil and gas cap is an investment killer. No pipelines are required to get Newfoundland and Labrador's 2.5 billion barrels of oil to world markets, or its 12.5 trillion cubic feet of gas to Tidewater. It's already there. So will the Prime Minister put his money where his mouth is and get rid of his investment-killing cap and bring prosperity back to the Atlantic Canadian oil and gas patch?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
We will build and protect our economy from American tariffs and win the trade war. But to find new markets for Canadian energy, emissions in every barrel of oil must be reduced. Serious investment in carbon capture must happen. We will build the strongest low-cost, low-risk, low-carbon economy in the G7.
The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
That sounds like a hard no to me. Saskatchewan people want to build pipelines. To secure and grow Canada's economy, we must develop a world-class energy sector. The anti-energy NDP Premier BC has stated there will be no new pipelines in BC. Anti-development extremists in the Prime Minister's cabinet have dedicated their careers to keeping Canadian oil and gas in the ground, like the Heritage Minister, like the Environment Minister. If this Prime Minister can't get consensus within his own cabinet, how will we ever get a pipeline built in our country?
Right? It's never going to happen with these weak liberals.
Again, I would say they need to go, my honourable colleagues need to look at the tapes. The Premier of Saskatchewan was supportive. The Premier of Alberta was supportive. The representative from British Columbia was supportive.
The representative. The Premier's not supportive.
Help us build the strongest economy in the G7.
David Eby, the man who has a crush on me, is not supportive.
Cardston Warner.
The Prime Minister and his energy minister say there will be no pipelines without a consensus, but buzzwords don't build pipelines. How is consensus realistic when the BC's NDP Premier has already ruled out a new pipeline? There's currently no proponent for an eastern pipeline, and the Prime Minister himself calls for Canada to be an energy superpower one day, and the next day insists that half the other reserves need to stay in the ground. Half of the PM's own cabinet wanted to see Canada's oil industries die and spent the past decade trying to kill it. If the Prime Minister can't find consensus within his own cabinet, how does he plan to approve a pipeline?
Exactly.
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Again, we've answered this question.
No, you haven't, bro.
How dare
best meeting he has been to as a premier. Best First Minister's meeting. Premier Smith said it was we have an opportunity for a grand bargain. Why don't you help us get to the grand bargain?
I'll remind the honourable minister to go through the chair.
That's
The
an odd
honourable member
speaker,
for
bro.
Vancouver.
Go Acton. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers were repeatedly told during the elections to vote Liberal because their leader had super negotiating powers that would neutralize Trump. Now, we've seen how that worked out today. Yes, applaud. Trump has doubled tariffs on aluminum and steel. The Bloc has said it before, we need to provide funds to these industries and redistribute the counter-tariff funds to them. We also have to prepare in advance a wage subsidy in the event of layoffs. Aluminum and steel have been subject to tariffs for 3 months, and now they've just doubled. Will Audley finally announce support? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, I spoke with the managers of Rio Tinto and Alouette, amongst others, yesterday evening, and we are here to support our aluminum sector companies. The Minister of Finance has also had many conversations, and we know how important aluminum is for Quebec. We know how important the workers in this industry are fundamental, and that is why I spoke to Mégane Picard earlier today from the FTQ, and I was also in contact with Unifor and Metalo, and we're continuing our work. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot, Acton. Mr. Speaker, we don't want to know with who the minister had dinner yesterday. We want to know what she's doing today. Aluminum and steel have been subject to tariffs for 3 months, and for 3 months, Ottawa has offered nothing to help them. The PM's negotiations have yielded nothing, and the tariffs have even doubled. So today, they need cash and a wage subsidy to guarantee that Quebecers won't be laid off. What is Ottawa waiting for to support our industries and protect our workers? The Honourable Minister of Canada-US Trade. Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, our government even acted before the election to support workers across Canada, the ones that were affected by these illegal and unjust tariffs imposed by the United States. The Prime Minister has clearly said we are negotiating a new safety and economic agreement with the United States, and we have a mandate to protect our industries and to protect our workers, and that's exactly what our government is doing.